What's going on? Here we go.
Why is your door open, right? Sure, I'll shut you right up and shut the door.
Oh, here we go. How you doing, ballers? It's the first episode of Ball is Life podcast, Stepback. It's your host, Leon Tompkins, with Randy Hammond and Jacob Moses. How you guys feeling this morning?
We're good. Good night of basketball. Healthy. No complaints.
I am cold here in upstate New York, and coming off the football show, so I'm awake. I'm ready to talk some NBA, man.
I hear you. So it's the first episode of the Step Back. We are looking to bring an interactive show to our group here. I'm looking to bring up some topics as far as NBA wheelings and dealings, All-Star game, touch on college basketball. What are your guys' thoughts on what we can bring to the show?
We can definitely bring a lot of insight. You know, we're all big fans of our teams, obviously. We watch them every game. We have plenty of basketball experience. So you played a lot. Randy, you played. Especially me, I've watched it all my life. You know, unfortunately, I'm a Knicks fan. Unfortunately, but you know, I have hope. You know, they can finally do something. Started off as a Knicks fan. My grandparents, as you know, Leon, you grew up with me. They're big Knicks fans. Started really getting into it in 90, 91. You know, when they actually played basketball completely different, played tougher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Oakley, Starks, my guy Ewing, you know, even McDaniel from the end of a little bit into his career. And I just love how they played. You know, the Garden was.
It looks like he muted himself, so I'll add this to this. I think that the fact that all three of us are a little bit different ages and different fan bases, come from different fan bases, we all can offer unique perspectives on the game that we all kind of grew up loving. We all kind of grew up watching a different era. I feel like we all probably played a little bit differently, is my guess.
Right.
I know that I never really was that good. Like I barely I couldn't even really make varsity, but I still played, you know, the like lower levels and played organized basketball for most of my life. I still love playing basketball. So I think the combination of like our fandoms, our experiences with our teams, our experiences on and off the court could offer some unique perspectives. And I think given a little bit of a test run yesterday, I think our personalities match pretty well to be pretty entertaining together.
Yeah,
Sure.
I tend to agree. Well, I'm a Brooklyn Net fan, for better or for worse. Grew up watching Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Kendall Gill, that group. The 2004 finals was something to behold. 2003. After 2000 and 2004, first the Lakers, then the Spurs, swept in both. But we're looking to bring some insight, some new ideas, and hopefully touch on some topics that will pique your interest.
I should say that I'm a Lakers fan living in New York. Don't judge me. I can explain later. When we get into that towards the end of the show.
So speaking of which, let's touch on last night's game between the Portland Trailblazers and the Utah Jazz. Controversial ending at the end of the game. Lillard driving by. Gobert blocks the shot. Missed the goaltending call. Blazers lose by 2. What are your thoughts on it? Jacob, let's start with you.
It was a great game. You know, it was Dame time as usual. That guy's been on another level. But it's a great game. But you got to look back to the fact of they lost a 16-point lead. You know, you're up that big, you lose that, you warrant that. You know you're going to catch something. if you lose like that, up 16, and then the Jazz just storm back like nobody's business, showing how good they are. They are a legit team, and they showed that. And it was a bad call, as you said. It was pretty bad. They missed it, but they should have been in that predicament as it is.
That's a good point, Jacob. I didn't even take into consideration that they were up so big to begin with, and to have that game come down to that call shouldn't have been a thing to begin with. But this game really comes down to two things to me. And Trevor Ariza absolutely had a breakdown in the middle of the game. Just did not like a call. Started just he almost hit a ref. I mean, he didn't hit him, but he got right in his face. Obviously, you can't do that. Did he get ejected? I know he got a tech, but
yes.
he got ejected, and quickly. That to me kind of shows me that, you know, this is why Portland isn't in the playoffs right now. They are an undisciplined team, that they let their emotions get the best of them, and they obviously cannot. Maybe they don't have the talent to maintain a 16-point lead, but you would like to think that lead against. I mean, they're playing a playoff team. Let's not like overestimate the Jazz by any means, because the Jazz are a good basketball team. But 16 points on the road, you're controlling the whole game, and that to me just started the onslaught after that. As far as the call goes, how do all three officials miss that? I mean, it's obvious that the ball hit off the backboard, and after that anyone touches the ball, it's a goaltend. But what nobody was talking about is that would have just tied the game, and there's no guarantee that that Portland even wins the game after that. So, you know, Jacob, good point that they shouldn't have blown a 16-point lead to begin with. But you know, Lillard was very, very upset after the game and said, like, you know, it started, you know, bashing the refs, and rightfully so. Like, they should not miss a call like that. But to me, there's no guarantee you win that game right there. I mean, if they call a foul and you make the shot, that's one thing. You're up one, but then you still have to play defense. You have to stop them, and you have to not foul them. And, you know, given how inconsistent the officiating is and how you already blew a 16-point lead, to me, there's no guarantee you win anyway.
I would agree. I would agree. You know, Lillard did his thing. They were missing Whiteside last night, so the Jazz were just foraying to the basket, and then they would knock down open threes. Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich, Mike Conley played well last night. They went to a 4-1 set, so just started knocking down threes. Gobert had a couple of Euro steps in there, but the Blazers were severely undermanned with Ariza out, and then Whiteside out. No way they could lose a 16-point lead, and considering that holding down that knife spot, trying to catch the Grizzlies, it's a pivotal game.
I think he did have a legit gripe, though, because he was getting grabbed and held all game, and the fact that he only shot 3 free throws throughout the entire game, I think that is a legitimate gripe. But the rest of the game, man, there's a lot of things that go on where you can avoid that blowout. I mean, you're up 16. I don't remember what the exact timing was for when that lead started disappearing, but I know it was in the second half. You have to be able to maintain your composure and still be able to get the job done at that point.
I agree. The officiating throughout the game was pretty bad. Throughout the halftime, it was very physical. Ariza got it tossed in the second quarter. Both teams were complaining about the officials, but that's just the way the NBA goes now.
Yep. There was a lot of inefficiencies, too. Melo played about 38 minutes. He shot 20%. I know Melo's old, you know, he's 33, 34 now, but you got to you got to try to be some kind of efficient. You cannot shoot that bad. Missing Ariza, that's one of their best defenders, if not the best defender on the team. You can't have stuff like that. I mean, I've never seen, he's usually cool and calm, but how he blew up quickly. I mean, he basically blew it, and they got, this close to his face. I'm like, oh boy. He got thrown out, but it was bad. It just shouldn't have happened. But it was a lot of inefficient play in the second half for them to lose the lead like that. It's McCollum, Dame did their job, even Gary Trent.
Gary Trent was a pest defensively. It's simple. You can't have 40 minutes of Mario Hezonja. That's it. You're gonna
exactly.
Plain and simple.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Man.
Another excellent game we saw last night, the Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. Raptors collecting their 13th straight win over a stellar Pacer team. Sabonis 19-16 last night. Brogdon with 16-9-6. But Toronto full steam ahead, 13 straight wins. What's your thoughts on that?
Toronto's a really good team. Honestly, I'll keep it real right now. I did not expect them to be this good, especially after losing Kawhi. Siakam, great player, but still, who would have thought they would, kind of, they're not running the East yet, but being that close to the top of the East, they have some guys. Anunoby, he can play. Fred VanVleet, that guy, he's a pest defensively. He can space the floor. Of course, Siakam, I explained that guy, all-star for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do they have on that squad that's really opening my eyes?
Serge Ibaka had 22 and 10 last night.
Yep, there you go. Serge is coming along as well. Like he's really shown himself to actually expand his game. Because remember, when he first came into the league, he could not shoot a lick.
No.
Ibaka and shoot the ball wasn't even in the same. It shouldn't have been in the same sentence. But how he just, with confidence, he steps back, got a little three going. His defense has been always there. I mean, as a player you can get behind. And Toronto, they're pretty good. They're amazing.
Yeah, I'm impressed with how good they are defensively. I mean, Kawhi obviously brought them to a whole nother level, and obviously was the main reason why they won the NBA Finals. But to me, losing him, I thought was really going to be a huge gap. But to the credit, I think Siakam has really developed. And I think the finals truly helped him become a great player. Ibaka and Gasol in the middle, like they're a big physical team in the paint. Like they are hard to score on down low. I'm not the biggest Kyle Lowry fan, but he has proven that he can be effective. And he left this game. He took a bad hit on Ibaka. His head smoked off the side of his leg, and he left. I think that they said he might have had a concussion or he was getting tested for that. But hopefully he's all right for their run here. I mean, he's been huge for them down in the playoffs and this year, really. Van Vliet, I mean, I love his shooting form. He reminds me of me because he's a little chubby, and the way he plays. So I'm a big Fred Van Vliet guy, and I just think they're so long and so physical. I think in a world that we live in where it's so offensively driven that they play differently than most teams. Like them and the Clippers are so defensive oriented that they can truly like mix it up and play that gritty type physical game and truly win. And I think they can make another run this year, but there's a reason that they won 13 straight games, and a lot of it is to do with their defense.
Oh yeah.
I agree with you, Randy. Toronto, I think it's the second best team in the East. Kyle Lowry's playoff pedigree is one to behold. They're a well-coached team. Nick Nurse doesn't. I mean, granted, he won a championship and still doesn't get enough credit for what he's done.
Sure.
I'm a big Toronto believer. If they have Rondae Hollis Jefferson making layups, more power to him.
And they have another Terrence Davis. Don't forget about him. Where did he come from? This guy dropped 17 yesterday. I mean, who is this guy? I mean, their development team is very underrated. With Anunoby, Norman Powell, we've seen Boucher a few times this season. They're a very loaded squad. Where it should be a force to reckon with defensively in the East.
So not a knock on the Pacers, though. I still think that they are a team in the playoffs who could make some noise in the playoffs. Oh, yeah. But you constantly get Oladipo guarding Siakam. That's a problem. So they got to fix up some things defensively. And Oladipo, just came back, so he has to get things rolling as well for Pacers to truly make the most of a playoff situation.
Mm-hmm.
One more game I want to touch on from last night. The Houston Rockets taking a 30-point beatdown on a back end of a back-to-back from last night to the Suns. Kelly Oubre, 39. Devin Booker with 33. There was a lot of talk that Oubre might be traded. They decided to keep him. The Suns started off hot. They're a dangerous team if you don't pay attention to them. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Rubio there. Houston, no center. We already know their 5-out deal. There's no Randy on the second end of a back-to-back here. They clearly showed it.
Well, no Westbrook either. So they definitely miss Westbrook's scoring and energy. So
yeah, like I said,
I mean,
Nah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I mean, Westbrook. I mean, for all of his faults, he definitely brings an energy to the team with how hard he plays. So, I mean, he had a consecutive streak, I believe, of 24 games of more than 20 points.
Correct.
So, regardless of his awareness, his bad shot making ability or bad shot taking ability, he definitely still has a level of intensity, a level of defensive. He has that sort of presence. And Harden, I think, kind of does what he wants anyway. So I'm sure he, in his mind, was like, well, I don't have to give the ball to Westbrook at all today. I'm just going to do my own thing. And it's frustrating to watch most of the time, which is why I'm not a big Rockets guy. But this was like their first game without Westbrook and without a center, too. So I think they're still kind of adjusted to that. They had that big win against the Lakers the other day, not without the center, with PJ Tucker playing center, for God's sake. But big game from Devin Booker and Oubre too. And you give up 39 to Oubre, you have other defensive issues other than center.
I'm telling you, PayPal depositing all night.
So looking through the comments, Johnny makes a good point. As far as Toronto was concerned, we completely ignored the work that the GM has done there.
Yes.
He should get a lot of credit. Thank you, Johnny. And
Bobby Webster and Ujiri.
Oh yeah. And what are your thoughts on Houston playing with a 5-out set with no center?
It can get you so far, but in the West, you need some kind of interior presence. I can't remember, honestly, off the top of the head, what team has actually gone that far running that system without a big guy manning, no matter what, offensively, defensively, who's going to go out there? What do they ran? Let me see the lineup right quick. What was it? Covington was in the starting lineup? Covington?
Yep. Covington.
Mm-hmm.
It was PJ Tucker at the 5.
Harden.
Westbrook, Harden, and
Danny House, right?
Yeah, Danny House.
And he's 6'8", if that. And you're going against Phoenix, who has Ayton. I believe I have another big. I can't think of it right now, but you can't do it. You're going to get through the play. You're going to get to the playoffs to at least the second round, but you're going to get exposed big time.
I think the Warriors are the best example of this, right? I mean, they have won with playing this sort of style of basketball, but at least they have some sort of big man presence. Like Draymond Green isn't like the tallest guy ever, but he plays a center type position where he defends at an elite level and he rebounds at an elite level. But they also throw in a Festus Ezeli or a JaVale McGee. Like they have a guy who is a 7-footer on their roster usually that they incorporate in some screen roles who can protect the rim. I mean, I think you're playing a dangerous game where you don't have rim protectors at all. I think you definitely need someone that's taller or more of a big man than PJ Tucker to protect the rim, because when you get to the playoffs, you have the Clippers who have big men all over the place. You have the Lakers who have, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee, and amongst other people who they are the biggest team, as far as like centers go in the league. And I think that, they beat the Lakers the other day because they are a better shooting team, which might be more important at the end of the day, but they're going to struggle with rebounding when playoffs come around.
I will say that I actually think D'Antoni is a genius. Now, he can only run this set because he has James Harden. James Harden's forcing teams to double team him as soon as he crosses half court. In the 5-out set, PJ Tucker is a corner shooter. Danny House can knock it down from anywhere, and Westbrook can get to the basket whenever he wants. So one of those two demands a double team at all times. The way they shoot the ball and space the floor, I think it'll work. Defensively, it may hurt them, but if you're gonna get into a 3-point shooting contest with the Rockets, you're gonna lose more often than not. It takes a little bit more effort defensively, but in the 7-game series in the playoffs, I'm not sure how that will hold up because coaches will make adjustments. And we saw this before when D'Antoni was on the Suns. 7 seconds or less. He was pretty close. Spurs knocked him off, but I think the Rockets can win 1 round. I'm not sure about 2.
And we should not be giving this Rockets team any benefit benefit of the doubt. They have shown it again that they are one of the biggest chokers in the sport, if not the biggest chokers. Like, they are a great shooting team, but they constantly come up short, and they have bad shooting performances, and it costs them. Like, the whole live and die by the three is truly the definition of the Rockets, and they've died more times than not in the playoffs.
And that's why, like you said, D'Antoni hasn't gotten that far. You know, he had Nash and Amari. They ran it so much. Remember, they had Eddie House. They had shooters. Eddie House, leave. Joe Johnson at one point. He had him. He still, Raja Bell. He still ran that. Yep, Sean Marion. They all of them could shoot. But the defense, it came down. The Spurs, they played that brand of defense that Phoenix couldn't handle. It was tough on them. Duncan, you know, Bowen at the time. I mean, they had elite guys. Tony Parker, he was a lockdown defender when he came into the league as well, before he started to slow down. And they shut it down. There's nothing D'Antoni can run or he can do. The 5-out, like you said, like we all said, it works to a certain point. And then coaches, and especially like Pop, he's going to adjust. That's the number one thing. He's one of the best, if not the best at that. He'll look at the game, especially at halftime. He'll tell you, we'll make adjustments, and then you just start seeing it just like that. And the Rockets, I'm just not a fan of, like Randy said.
Yeah, there's, I believe the Rockets will just eventually choke like they usually do. That shooting performance, that game 7, they missed 20 straight threes. That it's just not going to work.
Very good point.
Yeah.
So we have past the trade deadline in the NBA. There's a lot of moves. I mean, none of real significance. That, in my opinion, maybe one or two. Let's start off with Marcus Morris to the Clippers. Jacob, what's your thoughts on that?
I was really hoping that they could pry Kuzma away from the Lakers. I had a feeling it wasn't going to happen because they're pretty high on Kuzma. But the Knicks, actually, I'll say a B+. They might even get an A, because the Knicks, this is a new regime now of the Knicks actually making smart moves. You had to sell high on them. They sold high. Yes, it was the Clippers, and they're going to have a back of the round pick. But as I'll flip it over to your team, the Nets, they had to do stuff like that. But we have an advantage of having probably a top 5 pick. You know, you can get the game changer right there. You come back in the back of the round, you might get another one. Mm-hmm. And we have that for the next 2 years, and 7 picks over the next 3 or 4 drafts. They have a lot of picks. You know, if you want to bounce that for a disgruntled star like a Bradley Beal, why not do something like that? We'll see. I'm not a fan of trading picks, but if it's the right player, absolutely, I'm making that deal any day of the week. But I like it, you know. And also, what was left in that deal, a lot of people didn't notice that they have an option to switch with the Clippers. You know, I don't want to see anybody go down, you know, a Kawhi or Paul George, but something like that happens, that pick gets even more valuable. Mm-hmm. You know, and like I said, I like it. Now they gotta get something going. They gotta get an identity first, but we'll get into that. But I love the move they made. I'll miss Mook. We can bring him back, you know, maybe next season. But for them to get an actual first rounder like they wanted, and I love Mo Harkless. I followed him at St. John's. He's a Queens native, yes. But it's definitely, I doubt they bring him back, but I would want them to, because he can space the floor. He's still athletic. He plays defense, and team, hopefully he gets a shot to actually, you know, not a one and done. But that's another thing I can discuss later. But all in all, I'm gonna give the Knicks an A.
Randy?
I mean, I like that they got a first-round pick out of this. I think Mo Harkless is a similar player. Maybe, I mean, I think he's obviously not as good as Marcus Morris, but they were able to replace some of his production and get a pick. Probably won't be a greatest pick ever, obviously, because the Clippers are a playoff team, but at least it's draft capital. And at the end of the day, like, teams develop with players in the draft. As a Lakers fan, when I heard that they wanted Kuzma and Danny Green, I'm kind of glad they pulled out of that, because Kuzma's the youngest player on the Lakers. The Lakers are older. They need some youth, and whether he is that effective or not, he can still get better. I mean, this idea that players who are young can't get better is asinine to me. I think that he could continue to grow. But to me, Danny Green has been one of the Lakers' most important players because he does things that no one else on the team does. He shoots at a high level from three, and he defends guards really well. They don't have a lot of guys who do that. I think KCP is okay, but he's very inconsistent and more frustrating than not. So I'm not willing to part with Danny Green for anyone at this point unless it's someone who can do the same things that he does. And Marcus Morris would have been nice to have for defense and for playmaking ability, obviously. And he could have been on the floor. He would have been a guy that played late in games. But at the end of the day, a little bit too steep of a price for me as a Lakers fan.
Nice. I will focus on the Clippers end of the deal. Them receiving Marcus Morris. He's a grit and grind guy. The space the floor, shoot the three, play defense. Just what the Clippers' identity is. With Pat Beverly and Kawhi and Paul George, you can insert him into the starting lineup for their load management days. You know what you're going to get out of him, a solid 15 and 5 off the bench. He played hard while he was here with the Knicks. That bench just gets stronger with Lou Will and Harrell. The Clippers will be a force to be reckoned with. I like that move for the Clippers. Draft picks will mean nothing to them in pursuit of a championship.
You're right. I mean, you've seen a lot of teams kind of not care so much about draft picks, especially the ones later in the first round. It doesn't mean as much to them. What matters to them is having a veteran come off the bench and be able to handle that second unit, especially deeper in the playoffs.
Agreed. Next trade, go over the Miami Heat trading Justice Winslow and Dion Waiters to the Grizzlies for Iguodala and Jay Crowder. What's your thoughts on that, Randy?
I love it. I mean, Miami and Pat Riley seem to do this every so often, every 5 years or so, they kind of go, you know what, this is our chance to make a run here. I'm not saying they're better than the Bucks or better than the Celtics or better than the Raptors even, but I think that if things broke right for them, they are a team that could make a run in the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Butler, shout out to my guy, was heavily scrutinized for his role in the Timberwolves situation, saying he's not a good leader. If anything, I would argue he's a great leader for telling everyone what they needed to hear sometimes in life. Things aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you need to get told that you need to work harder, that you need to be pushed. So I love what Jimmy Butler is doing with Miami. I know he missed last night's game, but I love Bam Adebayo. The guy makes plays. The guy yams on people. He had a beautiful dunk on 2 people last night and foul. It was gorgeous. Goran Dragic is a good veteran point guard to run things down there. I love the addition of Iguodala. If he plays, I mean, like he hasn't played all year. He sat out and signed a $30 million extension. I don't know what. I wish one of us could just walk right into that situation, but Jay Crowder, I love that signing too, because Jay Crowder could be a solid second unit guy in the playoffs. Can defend. He brings the toughness. He can shoot. I really like Miami. I like their roster a lot, and Tyler Hero, love him too. I love he's played really well as a rookie. I love his attitude. I love his shooting ability. So Miami for me is a sleeper to come out of the Eastern Conference. I think so even more as long as Iguodala can bring the similar presence that he brought to Golden State.
Jacob?
I'll take the Grizzlies. So they receive Justice Winslow, Georgie Yang, and Dion Waiters. I don't know how much you're going to get out of him. He's too busy doing his own thing. But I like how they got Justice. He is still, I think he can have an impact because on the defensive end, Memphis they got better defensively. I will say that. He's a lockdown defender. He's not a strong shooter. You've seen that at Duke. Watched him enough. He can get to the rack, and he also, when he played with Miami, he played point forward really well. Those games, he was actually averaging like 14, 6, and 6, and it was pretty good to see. They also got, George Jang. He's a good, interior presence. He has a nice little touch, nice 15-footer for a big guy. Protects the rim. Dion Waiters can be a nice little microwave scorer off the bench, but he's a headpiece, as we've seen. So I don't know. I think they might cut him if they haven't done yet. So let's see what happens. But Memphis, that was a nice little push to make it to the 8th spot, and I think they might make it. I really believe that with Ja and Triple J, pretty good. Just gotta work on the shot selection That was pretty much it that I've seen from that kid. Shoots pretty well just like his dad. And Memphis, I think they hold on to the ace spot. I can see that happening.
I would agree. Jacob, check your mic for a minute.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I agree with the Grizzlies' young guns. I'm a big fan of what they're doing there. Like you say, with Ja, Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, and Jaren Jackson. Remember the old days of the grit and grind with Zach Randolph and Conley and Gasol. It just didn't work. It's the up-tempo NBA. I'm glad they got rid of that grit and grind nonsense. It's boring to watch. It didn't work. Just move up and down the floor. So I like what the Grizzlies are doing. They're out to prove people wrong. Iguodala didn't play throughout the year. He said, you know what? We'll see you in the playoffs. As far as Miami goes, they're at Jimmy Butler and his third stringers. He's leading the way. Duncan Robinson, like as Randy pointed out, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic. They're a deep team. You wonder a bit what they are defensively, but Jimmy Butler, he's going to bring it every night, and I like what Miami's doing over there.
I agree. Great points.
Another trade. The puzzling one to me, the Detroit Pistons trading Andre Drummond to the Cavaliers for Brandon Knight, John Henson, and some draft picks. For one, it's two teams within the same division trading with each other for one big man. Cleveland already has a similar big man in Tristan Thompson. I know Sexton and Garland are young. They still have Kevin Love for some reason. I don't know what's going on in Cleveland. This is just puzzling to me. Drummond's a free agent, I believe, at the end of the year.
Yes, he is, as well as Thompson.
It just makes no sense to me. Jacob,
they're trying to extend him. Yeah, they're trying to extend him now for some reason.
If he extends himself with the Cavaliers, he's setting himself up for failure big time. The only exciting thing about the Cavs are their guards. Garland, Sexton is a blur. I've seen him play against the Knicks a few times. Good grief, that kid gets down the court like nobody's business. His eyes get wide, and then boom, he's down the court. But like you said, you still got Love. I know they're not trying to make a playoff run. Let's be real. I don't know what they're doing. They didn't even get a pick. They didn't get anything. I don't know. And then Detroit side, I think it was just a garbage trade all around. There was nothing of importance. John Henson, he's a decent player. He could be like a 10 and 8 guy if you give him the right minutes. Brandon Knight, whatever, and a second round pick. What is I don't know. It's puzzling.
Two garbage teams, and as a Knicks fan, calling other teams garbage, I know it's cliche. I mean, it's not cliche, but it's pretty. We're garbage, but this trade, straight basuda. Pretty bad.
I just don't think we should pretend that Cleveland has ever been a well-run organization. Like they got lucked into the greatest player of this generation twice, and other than that, like they've never been good at anything. Like they got lucked into LeBron James 2 separate times. They got lucked into Kyrie Irving being the number 1 overall pick 1 time. They never won anything without LeBron. Never even made the playoffs without LeBron. To me, like they are a poorly run organization through and through. This trade doesn't make any sense to me. But when the trade did happen, I was like, okay, well now maybe they could flip Kevin Love for a couple picks. Maybe they could buy out Tristan Thompson or trade Tristan Thompson for something. They did nothing. They sat there and just let all these big men just chill on their roster. Like you can't play all of them at the same time. I certainly like him more than Tristan Thompson as a player. So if they wanted to extend him, that's fine with me. But it didn't make a lot of sense to just have all of them. Like if you're from a Cavs perspective, like this is your chance. Like Kevin Love has value on other teams. Like the Celtics could use him, or like I think a team like the Suns he would fit in well with. Like there's a lot of teams that could use a stretch big man like that. Tristan Thompson. Well, I don't know. We've only talked about it already today, but the Rockets don't have a guy taller than 6'10". Like he would be perfect for the Houston Rockets. Like to me, they did not like seize the opportunity to flip some of these guys after making this deal. As far as the Pistons go, I think that they are kind of just all in on being bad. I think that they're trying to go all in on the lottery at this point, which I don't think it's a strong year for the draft per se. But Blake Griffin is out for the rest of the season. They're not going to make the playoffs. They kind of did him dirty a little bit. Like he seemed very upset about the move. Like no one even told him about it. So let's not act like Detroit is a well-run organization either. These are just two bad teams making a questionable decision to me. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Absolutely.
I agree. Detroit just want to run their young guys. Christian Wood, Reggie Jackson, I hear, is looking for a buyout. Cleveland, enough said. I think Kevin Love would have worked well on the Rockets if they could have swung a deal. I mean, what are you going to do? They drafted Anthony Bennett, so that tells you all you need to know. Speaking of big men, in Houston, they traded their big man Clint Capella to the Hawks in a weird 14 trade.
Yeah.
Robert Covington heading to Houston. Capella heading to the Hawks. Second. All in all,
there you go. It was. I didn't like it.
All in all, Capella on the Hawks. They have John Collins. Maybe they'll. I don't know. The whole move is puzzling to me.
It made no sense. It really didn't. You got Robin Covington. Yes, he's a good defender, but you get rid of Capella, who was your only legit guy in the middle, and he actually played defense. He can win you games just by his defense alone. I want to know whose call that was. I just want to know.
I think this is all D'Antoni to me. I think he made a conscious decision that I don't want a big man. I want to be able to run five like the Warriors run five, but they don't have Draymond Green, walking through the door. Like that's what makes the Warriors five work. I like Covington. I like him on the Rockets, but I would have liked him a lot more with Capella on the Rockets.
I agree. And one more deal we'll talk about. D'Angelo Russell getting traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves to join his best friend, Karl Anthony Towns, who hasn't picked up a win since Thanksgiving.
KG all over again. But Minnesota, they really needed to. They were deep into that deal, from what I was hearing, so it had to happen. And that's the only way you probably would have kept Cat happy. And it'll win him some games. They might make a late push for that 8th, because you got to remember the deal with the Nuggets. They really got like almost a 5. They got Malik Beasley. If you've seen that kid play, he can shoot. He's athletic. Oh my goodness, he's a nice off ball. He's a nice off guard. I love watching him play. Hernan Gomez, he can stretch the floor. Definitely better than his brother. Evan Turner, he can get you some quality minutes. You all seen him play with the Sixers. He's decent. Still hate that ugly form that he has, but it's not my business. But he's definitely a good player. Vanderbilt, I've never really seen him too much, so I don't know anything about him. And they got the first round pick from the Nets that was actually the Hawks. So Minnesota, I think they're going to come out good in the deal. They'll make a nice little push. Cat, he's going to finally get a win soon. D'Angelo, I think he wanted to leave Golden State because I think in the back of his mind he knew, once Curry comes back and once, Clay comes back, there's going to be no room for him. That lineup would have been weird. Just Curry and D'Angelo. I'm trying to think about it now. Clay, it just wouldn't have worked. So you had to get something out of it. The Warriors are setting themselves up nicely for a top 5 pick as well. And then you add on to what they have. They're going to be good again. Give them about 2 years. But Minnesota, I give them a B on the deal, especially. And then Wiggins. Oh, excuse me. I forget about Wiggins. You put him on that team when they start running. that dude, he's another one. Like he's like a deer in hell. Like when you see him, you're just like, oh, you got athleticism there. He drives, you kicking it out to Clay, you kicking it out to Steph. It's going to be a problem. The Warriors they're gonna look good in a couple of years.
Randy, your thoughts?
That's why I think that this is a bad move for the Warriors, because I personally thought that D'Angelo Russell could have fit in perfectly with what they would have wanted to do, because Steph and Clay are so good off of the ball that they are constantly running off screens, and they are great spot-up shooters. And I know Steph with the ball is the ideal situation, but I think he would have been able to blend in with them well, like better than Wiggins, because like Wiggins is sort of a ball stopper, not the greatest shooter ever, good defender, but to me, I think Russell would have been a better fit. But I just want to say, I think that the Wolves did this really well, because Cat obviously very unhappy, probably out the door if something like this doesn't happen. Him and D'Angelo are best friends, so this is the classic make a move to make your star player happy.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say I'm a Lakers fan, obviously, so D'Angelo Russell is someone who I rooted for, who I supported as a Laker. I did not ever want them to trade him. They kind of chose Lonzo Ball over him back in the day. I didn't agree with it then. I honestly thought they could have played well together. I think D'Angelo is underrated in his aspect of being a shooter. Like I think he plays well with others, and I think he proved that with the Nets. But I saw an interesting tweet the other day that it kind of broke down D'Angelo's career to this point. He's had a fascinating start to his career, where he got drafted by the Lakers, and there was a lot of drama going on with Nick Young and Iggy Azalea, and he played in Kobe's last game. He played in Dwayne Wade's last game. He led a young Nets team to the playoffs. It was an Eastern Conference All-Star. And then he got traded to the Warriors and signed a max contract. And then Steph and Clay got hurt. And then now he is traded to the Wolves, and he's playing with the guy who was selected over him. And he's only 23 years old. Like, that is a lot to happen in a 4-year span. And I'm a fan of D'Angelo Russell. I think he'll be fine. And I wish I wanted him on the Nets too. I would root for him big time when he was with Brooklyn. I think he's a good player. I think a lot of people don't realize how good he is. I don't think he's very good defensively, obviously, but in the sport, you can find replacements to guards and kind of hide people. I mean, the Warriors do it with Steph and have Clay guard the other team's opposing point guard. Like, that sort of thing works. I like D'Angelo Russell. I like the move for the Wolves. I don't love it for the Warriors because I'm not a big Wiggins guy. To me, he doesn't play hard. Like, maybe they can elevate him and perhaps put some more passion instilled to him, but he's kind of like Tin Man to me, where he's got no heart. Like, he just goes out there and runs up and down the court, and that's it. Like, he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, the reason I love Russell Westbrook in particular is that he plays every game, every possession like it's his last. And, like, I appreciate that. Wiggins is the complete opposite. Like, I've never seen that dude even look like he's sweating. So I don't love the move for the Warriors, but what changed my mind a little bit this morning, Steve Kerr said the greatest fit. It seemed like they wanted to move on from him, and that D'Angelo wanted to move on from them. So if that's the case and they're not going to mesh well, then yeah, obviously make a move and get a pick. And I think the Warriors are set up perfectly for the future, given that they have a couple draft picks. They're the worst team in the Western Conference right now. They have Stephen Curry coming back. They have Klay Thompson coming back. They are going to be fine next year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them back in the finals next year.
I would agree. Russell with Brooklyn, I mean, he put them on the map. The reason we have Kyrie and KD is because of Russell. I thought the move initially was just a positional thing. Their small forward is weak at the moment. I figured Wiggins, Curry, Clay next year, if they get the number 1 pick, I believe they'll draft Wiseman. So they'll be set up for the future. The trade in the offseason with the signing trade with KD, it was more or less making sure Russell got his money and did KD a favor. So, the Warriors will be fine next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, next weekend is the All-Star game. We have Team Giannis versus Team LeBron. Trying to find the teams here. At the draft the other night, some would say LeBron won that by a landslide.
Yeah, Giannis, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
Pretty bad. We're all sitting there going, you do know you get to pick better players. I mean, you can do this. It's not like you're getting selected by fans. Dude, are you trying to get smacked? What is going on? Come on, Giannis.
With that said, there's also brought on a new set of rules for the game this year, where each quarter, first three quarters are its own score, with a cumulative score. Brought all together for the fourth quarter, to reach a target goal added by 24. With the score add 24, and that's the target goal in honor of Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird set of rules to me, but I like it. It's the All-Star game. You know, I just want to watch it for some dunks and, you know, highlight reel. If it'll get them to play harder, so be it.
Mhm.
Everything's going to charity, and I'm just excited to see how this new format will work out.
Now, is that 24? Like, say Team LeBron is up 50. Is it still, if Giannis gets 24 in the fourth, they still win?
So if the leading team, whoever's winning at the end of the three quarters, is added to 24 is added to that score, and the game is over whenever. So let's say Team LeBron has 100, Team Giannis has 95. The target score is 124. Whoever gets there first, the game is over.
Okay.
So
So
it's
it's
no
24.
time.
It's 24 for Team LeBron, but it'd be more points for Team Giannis at that point.
Right. Right. And the fourth quarter is untimed.
Yeah.
So it's
it seems complicated to me. It would have been just. I mean, they did the right thing and let one team wear number 2 and the other team wear 24. But this seems kind of like nonsense to me.
I'm not. Honestly, I'm not a fan of it. But like I said, I like the honoring Kobe. But
It's an exhibition. You can kind of get away with doing some random stuff, but it would have been just as simple as one team wears 24, the other team wears 2. They did that. They did the right thing. And then that's all you really needed at that point. You go out there, play your hardest, because that's what he would have wanted you to do, and that's it. But whatever.
Yeah, and looking at these teams here, so LeBron's team, AD, Kawhi Leonard, Luka, Harden, Lillard, Ben Simmons, Jokic, Tatum, CP3, and Westbrook.
Ridiculous.
That's a lot of dribbling.
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of dunks. A lot of dunks.
Alleys.
Yeah.
Like, I guess Giannis wanted to challenge, but I mean, as long as these guys go out and play hard, Harden's gonna take about 25 step back threes. You know, more power to
Get
him.
him out of the game.
Yeah.
So Giannis has Joel Embiid, Pascal Siakam, Kemba Walker, Trae Young, Chris Middleton, Bam Adebayo, Rudy Gobert, who should not be an All-Star, but that's besides the point. Kyle Lowry, Brandon Ingram, and Donovan Mitchell. Like, the difference in those two teams is just astronomical. Yeah. It's crazy.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. They have to. I think they have to fix the All-Star voting.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that they should, believe it or not, they should expand the rosters. A guy like Kyle Lowry, he missed 20 games this year. He was an All-Star. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, those guys, albeit playing for losing teams, I thought should have been All-Stars.
Did Tatum make it?
Tatum made it.
Devin Booker should be an All-Star. How is Devin Booker not an All-Star? Guy averages 28 points a game.
Yeah, it's just no.
Karl Anthony Towns, even though he lost about 15 games in a row, I thought he should have been an All-Star.
Absolutely.
Dinwiddie. But every year there's always some guys that should be should be off, should have been put on. It hurts because it adds to your resume, and sometimes it costs you dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the All-Star game itself is like my least favorite part of that whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
All-Star Saturday night, regardless of how good the events are, is something that I always really enjoy and we're always really excited for. It's something I plan a Saturday around, and regardless of how good the events are, I always love the skills challenge. I always love the 3-point shootout, and I always love the dunk contest. And it's something that I'm looking forward to just as much this year. And I thought maybe we could make some picks on these challenges if you guys would like.
Sure.
So Saturday night, the first event is the skills challenge, and the participants are Bam Adebayo, Patrick Beverley, Spencer Dinwiddie, Chris Middleton, Derrick Rose, Sabonis, Pascal Siakam, and Jason Tatum, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So who do you guys think could win that skills challenge?
Derrick Rose actually pulled out.
Oh, did he? Okay.
What else is new about Derrick Rose, right? Yeah, that's a shot at people. Yeah, I'm coming at you.
You're right.
But, come on, guys. You're coming back to Chicago. Come on, go ball out. We all know what kind of skills Derrick Rose has when he plays. But I'm going to go with Shai. That kid I'm going to go with him. That's my consistent pick right there. I can see him just running right through it. And
I love it.
My sleeper would be Bam. Man, you just never know. Like, just when KP won it, you're just like, wait a minute. Did he really just run it like that? But Bam is my sleeper, but I'm going with Shai because that kid, he has skills.
Leon, you going chalk here?
Yeah, I'm going to my guy. I'm going my guy Dinwiddie. He's gonna.
I knew that.
He's gonna get the respect he deserves, and he's gonna get the respect he deserves.
Okay.
Corner store.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you. I was gonna say Dinwiddie or Alexander, but because you guys picked both of them, I was gonna go a little bit different. Because you mentioned how KP won it, I would love to see Sabonis win it. I think he has those skills that he could win it. So I'd like to see Sabonis take it home. All right, second event Saturday night is the three-point contest, which I don't care. Every year it's exciting because these guys make that look so easy. It's different because there's no Steph this year. Where every year I basically go chalk and I pick Steph or Clay every year because those are the best shooters ever to me. So this year we have Davis Bertans, Devontae Graham, Joe Harris, Buddy Hield, Zach LaVine, Dame Lillard, Duncan Robinson, and Trae Young. Who do you got, Leon?
Buddy Hield. The guy who shoots from anywhere. He gets hot, flaming hot. I like Buddy Hield in that one.
How about you, Jacob?
I'm gonna go with Duncan Robinson. When he gets hot as well, it's crazy. And he just pulls kind of like a trade from half court. Oh, nice for him.
Yeah.
Hits it like nobody's business. So I'm gonna go with Duncan.
All right. Well, I had money on Stephen Curry winning last year, and the man who upset him was Joe Harris of the Brooklyn Nets. So if he's good enough to beat my boy Steph, he's good enough to do it. And I got Joe Harris going back-to-back on the three-point shootout. All right, the slam dunk contest I actually think is going to be pretty exciting for once. I mean, we've had some lackluster ones, except for the LaVine, Aaron Gordon one was probably the most memorable one of late. We have Pat Connaughton, we have Aaron Gordon again, we have Dwight Howard, and Derek Jones, who can absolutely fly. Jacob, who you got in this?
I'm going Aaron Gordon. He's going to claim that title now. He's coming back with a vengeance. I was rooting for Zach those 2 years. But that second one, Aaron Gordon, what he did with the drone, and then he put it under both of his legs, and then he did the three. He should have won it, but he's coming back. He's coming for blood. I think it's AG on this one.
Yeah. What about you, Leon?
Dwight Howard.
Oh.
The old guard will come back with a vengeance. I think he's going to do it inspired, play inspired. I got Dwight Howard bringing back Superman.
Oh, well, see, it made me sad about Dwight because he said that he wanted to incorporate Kobe somehow in one of his dunks. So I would love to see Dwight bring it home. They didn't have the greatest relationship by any means, but I would have been nice to see the Mamba at the events, but we can get into that a little bit later. I'm really interested to see Derek Jones and what he can do. I think he could surprise us. I could see him being in the finals here. I can tell you, I'm going to put it out there right now, and you guys can all make fun of me later. Pat Connaughton's not winning this. I'm just throwing that out there. He can fly. He can fly. Not winning. That's all I'm going to say.
He's like Chris Anderson.
As long as he doesn't pull a Chris Anderson, I will be happy.
To me, Aaron Gordon, I think, is it's his time to shine. I think that he really put on a couple of shows with Zach LaVine, and I think he's one of the best in-game dunkers as well. Also, I'm really excited. I just want to see if Derek Jones can surprise people because he really can get up there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Side note, I wish Vince Carter was in this.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That'd be cool. That would be really cool.
Talking about just getting people out of their seats. Actually, Leon, I think you were at my house when we were watching that We were watching Vince Carter in 2000 freaking just go to work, just stuff that we've never seen. And you talk about bunnies. When we say the word bunnies, Vince Carter had it. He still does. I mean,
Yep.
He changed it. He changed the game. Putting his
I
arm
agree.
in the rim. I think we all pretty much tried to do it. We go outside. Oh man, Vince Carter did that. Went outside, try to put our arm in the rims and under the legs. But
Yeah. I agree.
That 360, that was the sickest dunk ever, man. That is so hard to do, to twerk your body that way. To just, I don't know how he did it. Still don't know how he did it.
You know who had some incredible dunks in a dunk contest, and we'll get into it now. Kobe Bryant.
Yes.
He
really did.
He had some incredible in-game dunks. His dunk contest performance was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
If guys haven't heard already, let's live under a rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tragic passing in a helicopter crash. His daughter and 7 other people on board. It was heartbreaking. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah. It's definitely. We all grew up watching Kobe, and like I always said, I'm trying not to get emotional, but I've always said basically the closest to Jordan was Kobe. That no LeBron, it's no LeBron, nobody. It was basically Kobe. His heart, that Mamba mentality, he took it every step of the way. When he was off the court, on the court, and when he got on that court, he struck fear in people's eyes. I mean, I love watching him at the Garden. When he dropped his 61, that was something to see. Like we attested that when he did that little shimmy under Wilson Chandler, I was, Jesus Christ, this guy is just, he's more than amazing. And the dude just, I can't. And when you know it was game time, when he gets you in the post, he'll put the jersey up, put his mouth, do his little wiggle, fade away. And he had it down to a T. You can tell he was a student of the game from a young age. It was amazing to see. I mean, we lost a great one, great father, great man. Yes, you can bring up the whole case, throw it out the window. It doesn't define him as a man, as a player, as a father. It didn't. But Randy, I'm gonna definitely let you take that as a Laker fan. What did that mean to you when you got that news?
Well, honestly, at the time, it kind of felt like the world stopped. It didn't feel real. Still something I'm kind of in denial about. Still something that I'm not. It's hard for me to accept. And I touched on a little bit of the Super Bowl podcast. I think it's a little bit easier for me to talk about now, a little bit further removed, a little bit more time to reflect. Kobe meant more than just basketball. I think even for more than just Lakers fans. For me, we're all different ages, and growing up as a Laker fan, Kobe and Shaq Lakers were the first team that I grew up watching and loving. And my dad was a Knicks fan, but he also loved Magic Johnson. It was his favorite player when he grew up. So when I started watching basketball with him, he said, you can be a Knicks fan, but I don't care if you're a Lakers fan, because honestly, it's probably the better way to go. So my dad gave me like a blessing, like, if you're a Lakers fan, I'm not going to be mad at you. And thankfully, my dad, was accepting of that. Which is crazy because my dad's favorite player there was Magic. And I remember when I was a kid, my mom always making fun of my dad for crying when Magic retired. But they all thought it was a death sentence because of the HIV. And when me and my dad called me after the Kobe thing, and what he said, and it kind of like got me to break down a little bit. He's like, I never thought Magic would outlive Kobe. And it's crazy to think about that. To me, Kobe felt larger than life. It didn't feel like a basketball player. It was like he was a global icon. Like, he meant more. Like, he was, for my generation, especially his generation as Laker fans, he was the example of hard work. Like, if you wanted to be successful, like, I grew up a Yankees and Lakers fan. Like, I grew up watching two people, and Derek Jeter and Kobe Bryant, that are just the examples of hard work. Like, success, just, you don't wake up and be successful. You wake up, you punch your time card, you go work hard, and then after you clock out, you're still working hard. You're still dedicated to your craft, and you're still willing to do whatever you can to succeed. For me, I was very lazy as a child. I was very lazy throughout middle school and high school. Like, I just was like, yeah, I don't need to do homework. I was just going to go and play sports, and anything, like, whatever happens. Like, no. And as I got older and as I grew up and got more mature, I realized, like, these things don't just happen. These things happen because you go in there and you work hard and you're dedicated and you want it so badly. And to me, Kobe was the greatest example of that. growing up watching the Kobe Shaq Lakers, like you couldn't tell me those weren't the two greatest players ever. You know, like they were the best duo. Like they should have won 8 championships. Like if they didn't have all that shit happen, like they could have ran stuff for a decade. For me, like I don't know, I when I started playing basketball, one of my buddies taught me how to shoot, like the motion with the wrist. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, let me go watch some highlights of people. And I watched like just generic NBA highlights from the past season, and I just remember Kobe's being like, wait, like how did he do that? Like he just dunked on those people, and there was like 3 guys there. And then you realize, oh, he did that. He didn't travel. Oh, he did that. Well, look at that footwork. And then you just become enamored with people. I think all of us can relate to people that we look up to basketball wise and inspired to be like. For me, I watched hours of Kobe highlights trying to imitate him. You brought up this Kobe 61-point game. His move on Wilson Chandler. That happened in 2007, 2008. I was 16 years old when that happened. I went outside and I had my sister guard me. And I go, all right, I'm going to pump fake. You jump. I'm going to spin and shoot. And I practiced that forever until I could get it down. And I would never try it in a game. But the fact that he did it in a game in which he scored 61, like, you know how hard he worked on that shot. You know how well, like how much he practiced his footwork. And you grow to appreciate that sort of thing. And as he got older and started getting injury problems, like we had the farewell Kobe like campaign where like he was going to retire, right? So growing up in New York, I didn't get many chances to see him. And when he announced his retirement, I wanted so badly to go see him in one game. They were coming back to the East Coast to play the Celtics and to play the Raptors. Toronto's not that close to where I live. Boston's only 2 hours. I spent a stupid amount of money on tickets and hotels to go see him. And especially now with what happened, it's a memory I'm going to cherish forever. He had a triple double. He had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. He hit a game icing 3 with like 35 seconds left, and the whole crowd, the whole TD Garden chanted Kobe Bryant, and it gives me chills now just thinking about it, like that moment. And that's the closest I'll ever be to Kobe. That's the closest I ever got to meeting him. But that's a moment like for me that now that especially that this has happened, that I'm glad I did, because it was irresponsible to do financially. It was probably like a thing that I probably shouldn't have cared too much about. But we're here doing this because we love sports, right? We love basketball. For me, like my fiance will be like, well, you didn't even know him. You didn't meet him. To me, when you grow up as a sports fan, those guys are family to you, whether they know it or not. So I think I speak on behalf of a lot of Laker Nations that we lost a family member and we lost somebody that we looked up to. And to me, the fact that he was with his daughter that he was so proud of being her dad with is the most devastating thing. My heart was broken, and it's still broken now. And no celebrity death has ever affected me this way. I can't remember any other. Michael Jackson dying, like he was kind of doing bad health wise. It wasn't to me the most shocking thing ever. Like it was sad, but to me, this was the most shocking, most unexpected death, and the most celebrity death that will ever have that effect on me. To me, it changed me. Now, like if that can happen to Kobe, that can happen to any of us. You know, like to me, he seemed like he was bigger than that sort of thing. Like I always thought, like, okay, well, if Kobe Bryant's ever going to pass, he's going to tweet out "Mamba out," and then that's how it's going to go. You know, he's going to go out on his own terms. So, for me, it's something that changed me, and I'm not going a single day without love. I said this on the football podcast. Like I'm not going a single day without telling everyone that I love them. Not going a single day without appreciating what I have. And every single day is sacred. You know, tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us. So I appreciate you guys letting me come on here with you and to talk about this, because it's near and dear to my heart, and it truly has affected me more than I ever could have imagined.
Definitely.
No doubt.
That was good, man.
My thoughts on it was I wasn't a huge Kobe fan, but I appreciated him after his retirement. He gave back to the game. He was a loving father to his daughter, and you could see his presence more afterwards. Throughout the games, visiting Luka, Trae Young, and Jason Tatum, just sharing his knowledge, sharing his wisdom throughout the game, and it was nice to see, because during his playing days, all you saw was Kobe, the person he didn't get along with, his beef with Shaq, his beef with Powell. He argued with rookies, but to watch him give back to the game, teaching his daughter, you see him sitting courtside. It's just to think that he was just here yesterday. You saw him at this game. It's tough to take.
Yeah, I think that we're spoiled too as basketball fans, where so many legends of the sport are still around. You know, like Shaq's doing TV stuff. Bill Russell gives out an MVP of the Finals trophy every year. Michael Jordan owns a franchise. Like there are so many legends of the game that are still in and around the sport that we see, we hear from. Like Larry Bird is around the Pacers all the time. Like we're spoiled. Like besides Wilt and a couple other guys, like most of them are still alive. So for this to happen, Magic's still like the fact Magic's still alive. Like Magic, like they all thought he was done. There was no way he was surviving. So this is truly shocking. And I just want to say this to wrap my part of this up. If you're an NBA player, or if you're a fan, or if you're someone who plays rec basketball like me, or goes and plays basketball at any level, the best possible way you can honor Kobe Bryant is go out there and give it everything you have every single minute of every game, because that's what he did. Don't worry about if you're playing the Lakers. Don't worry about if you're playing in LA. Like, don't worry about any of that. He would want you to go out there and be a killer. Go out there and be the best that you possibly can be, and not be afraid of anything. And that goes for everyday life too. No matter what, just don't be afraid and work your ass off for everything. So
definitely words to live by. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. That was great. I love that. Yeah, you do it one time. Throw them up, people. Get the paper. We all know we used to do it.
Kobe.
Oh man,
this has been a great inaugural podcast episode for us here. It was great talking to you guys, and you guys have any parting words before we wrap this up?
I think we're gonna see an interesting second half of the season. Go Knicks. I'm still suffering. I'll say I got about 2 or 3 more years of suffering. We'll have a new president soon, and Leon Rose.
Well, Leon's are pretty smart, so.
Oh, somewhat. But a player agent. It worked for Brody crossover. It worked for Brody. Hey, so far it's working a little bit, but I think the Knicks are headed to where they need to be, image-wise. They got the whole Oakley thing. They have to really. Dolan has to do what he has to do to get that done. That's one of our legends of our team. Get it done. Change your image, because nobody's going to come here if you keep the image that you have now. My parting words is thank you for inviting me on here, Leon. That was big for you to come to me and say, hey, there's nobody else I wanted to do this with. I know you for a long time. For you to do that. And Randy, definitely, when I heard the Kobe thing, you were the first person I've seen like Ashley from far, like, oh, he's a big Laker fan. He got to do the Kobe tribute. Leon was like, he has to come and do it. And that was awesome. And to get that from a true Lakers fan, and see what he meant to you, that was big. I appreciate it. I love that. And I'm ready to roll with this. This is going to be big. The step back, people. We told you it was coming. It's here.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you guys letting me be a part of this. I know that this was your brainchild, and you guys have great chemistry from knowing each other. I kind of just got thrown into this and not really knowing either of you all that well, but I really do appreciate you guys letting me be a part of this and coming on, especially to talk about one of the people I looked up to for a lot of my life. My parting words is R.I.P. Kobe, R.I.P. GG. Let's go Lakers.
Well, that was a fantastic episode, and I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. We saw some garbage at the end. Catch up with our next podcast next Saturday, 11 a.m. here at Bowler's Life. Look around for our other podcasts in the other groups, The Lab with Johnny and Matt, Dong City with Vince and Matt as well. Thank you, guys.
Henry, don't forget
Henry. He's a Knicks fan. He's all right.
Tape him up, Henry.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and see you next time.
All right.